One full day came and went, followed by another, and the silence surrounding the case grew absolutely deafening. Lying in a sterile hospital crib, the infant remained nameless, completely alone, and utterly vulnerable to the world. 3 agonizing days ticked by without a single development. There was nothing, not one word, not one lead. The only response authorities received was a cold, unsettling void, with no distraught mother rushing through the hospital doors to claim her child. There were no anonymous phone calls, no tipsters offering crucial evidence, and absolutely no leads coming in to assist the police investigation. It appeared as though the baby had simply been erased from existence, discarded like refuse to fade away in a trash bin, all while thousands of fans cheered for forehands and backhands just a few hundred yards away at the stadium. This was a nightmare scenario unfolding in real time, a tragedy that starkly exposed the absolute darkest, most depraved corners of human nature. It was a haunting reality that refused to fade. While law enforcement hit one frustrating dead end after another, Alexandra Eala was desperately attempting to focus on her tennis career. The young star had high-stakes matches to prepare for and a schedule packed with mandatory media obligations that simply could not be ignored or rescheduled. She had the weight of the entire Philippines on her shoulders, with the eyes of the global sporting world scrutinizing her every movement on and off the court. However, insiders within her camp, those who know her best, report that she has been fundamentally and irrevocably changed by the horrors she witnessed. During mandatory press conferences, reporters noted she appeared distant and heavily distracted, with her usual competitive spark noticeably dimmed and her demeanor subdued. Throughout her practice sessions, observers saw her gaze drifting away, losing focus on the ball entirely, as her mind wandered to a place far removed from the tennis court. She wasn't strategizing for her upcoming clash against Alicia Parks or thinking about doubles tactics. Her mind was consumed by the memory of those empty, haunting eyes staring up from that trash bin. The question haunted her: how do you lock in and focus on a game when you have stared true, unadulterated evil directly in the face? How can anyone celebrate winning a championship point knowing a helpless child is lying alone in a hospital ward, rejected by the very person who brought them into existence? Sources extremely close to her inner circle have now revealed something truly remarkable about her activities during this time. We have learned that Alex visited the hospital every single night without fail, making it a mandatory part of her daily routine. She would slip out of her hotel room well past midnight, clad in a hoodie and oversized sunglasses, to evade the ever-present paparazzi just to sit quietly by the baby's crib for hours on end. She watched over the nurses, feeding him with infinite patience and care, often reaching out to hold his tiny, fragile hand in hers. Reports say she sang traditional Filipino lullabies, songs her own mother had once sung to her, seeing a reflection of vulnerability in that child that both terrified her spirit and inspired her resolve. The world of professional tennis demands absolute, unwavering selfishness from its champions. To reach number 1, you are expected to be ruthless. An athlete is taught to put themselves first above all else: their sleep, their recovery, their strict diet, while everything else in life must come second. But Alex was experiencing something completely different, a powerful emotion that defied the cold, calculated logic of professional sports performance. She felt an inexplicable magnetic pull toward the child, a connection that made zero sense on paper, but made all the sense in the world to her heart. With each passing hour, she realized with growing certainty that the silence from the biological mother was permanent. It was never going to break. It became clear that this baby was truly, completely alone in this world, with no one to advocate for his future. In the wake of that devastating realization, the tennis trailblazer decided to forge a new path that no player in the entire history of the sport had ever dared to walk during an active Grand Slam. We are talking about an adoption story that has completely shocked the sporting world and dominated headlines everywhere. The news officially broke on a Tuesday morning, right as the second-round matches were commencing across the tournament grounds. This was not a leak from a questionable gossip blog or an unconfirmed social media rumor. This was a fully verified report backed by multiple credible sources. Alexandra Eala had officially initiated emergency custody proceedings through the Australian family court system to take responsibility for the child. She was not merely visiting the infant out of fleeting sympathy or a sense of charitable obligation. She was taking legal steps to genuinely adopt him. A 20-year-old professional athlete becoming a mother in the middle of a Grand Slam tournament. The shockwave that followed was absolutely instantaneous and overwhelming. The platform, formerly known as Twitter, completely melted down, crashing under the weight of the news. Millions of tweets flooded the timeline by the minute, while Instagram exploded with reactions ranging from tearful support to absolute stunned bewilderment. Veteran sports analysts across the globe were left utterly baffled, scrambling live on air to make sense of this unprecedented and complex situation. The questions arrived fast and furious. She is only 20 years old. How is this legally or logistically even possible? She is in the absolute prime of her athletic career. How can she possibly raise a newborn while touring the globe 11 months out of the year? Is she retiring from tennis entirely? Has she lost her mind? To many insiders, it seemed like complete and utter madness. Major sponsors were reportedly calling her agent in a state of absolute panic, demanding immediate answers and reassurances regarding her career longevity. Coaches from rival camps were seen shaking their heads in disbelief, muttering about wasted potential and what they perceived as career suicide. But Alex herself remained remarkably, almost eerily calm amidst the media hurricane swirling violently around her. She released a brief but absolutely searing statement through her official social media accounts that cut through all the noise and speculation like a hot knife through butter. She did not waste a single second discussing complex legalities, logistical challenges, or the impact on her ranking. She did not offer detailed explanations about her future schedules. Instead, she spoke from a place of pure, unadulterated fury and unconditional love that resonated with millions. The statement was simple, devastating, and final. Only evil people would abandon their own child. That brief statement, consisting of merely 7 words, stripped of pretense and overflowing with raw honesty, exploded across the internet. Within mere moments, it had saturated every major social media feed on the planet. This was light years away from the sanitized, corporate-approved press releases we have grown so weary of expecting from high-profile figures. Usually these elite competitors sound like robots, coached to perfection, to never say anything controversial, but this broke that mold entirely. It served as a blistering moral verdict, a scathing denunciation directed squarely at the individual heartless enough to abandon a defenseless infant to the elements. Furthermore, it threw down the gauntlet to a society that turns a blind eye, permitting such atrocities to occur in the dark corners of our world. The global response was instantaneous and massive, with citizens from every continent standing firmly in her corner. The public discourse flipped 180 degrees overnight. She went from being questioned for her sanity to being canonized as a modern-day savior. Instead of holding out fuzzy yellow tennis balls for autographs, spectators began arriving at her matches clutching onesies, boxes of nappies, and plush toys. Her loyal following, known as the EALA Army, already recognized as one of the most fervent crowds in the sport, underwent a metamorphosis. They evolved from simple sports enthusiasts into a colossal support system for their idol, who found herself navigating early motherhood under the most bizarre and unprecedented conditions we have ever witnessed. However, if you labored under the delusion that this saga concluded right there with a happily ever after adoption and a viral soundbite, you are sorely mistaken. While it sounds like the perfect Hollywood ending where the world comes together, that was merely the prologue. The reality is far more complex. The subsequent statements made by Alex did not continue to weave that tapestry of unity and universal admiration. On the contrary, her words acted as a wedge, fracturing the community and sparking a ferocious debate that continues to burn hot even now, in 2026. It became the defining controversy of the season. Fast forward a few days, the initial adoption bureaucracy was in motion, and the infant, reportedly given the name Felix, signifying lucky or prosperous in ancient Latin, was secure. He was resting safely under her guardianship, receiving 24-hour attention from medical professionals to ensure his well-being. At this juncture, Alex agreed to a sit-down interview, which every producer and viewer anticipated would be a gentle, heartwarming puff piece regarding her sudden transition into parenthood. The journalist, undoubtedly hunting for emotional clips about juggling nappies and backhands, posed what appeared on the surface to be a completely benign standard inquiry. Alex, could you elaborate on your strategy for managing the rigorous demands of the WTA Tour alongside your new maternal duties? Do you harbor any concerns that this drastic life change might trigger a slide in your world rankings or derail your career momentum? Alex fixed her gaze upon the interviewer with a piercing intensity that instantly sucked all the oxygen out of the studio. The camera person, recognizing a pivotal moment was unfolding, tightened the shot on her face, capturing every micro-expression. The ambient noise of the production set, usually buzzing with whispers and technical adjustments, evaporated into total stillness. The silence was so profound you could hear a heartbeat, and then with zero hesitation she detonated a verbal warhead that would scorch the earth. If this industry values a statistical ranking point over the breathing existence of a human life, then this entire infrastructure is diseased down to its very roots. Perhaps I have no desire to participate in an ecosystem that prioritizes silverware over nurturing a child who requires my protection. Let's be clear, the tour has an inherent disdain for mothers. We are actively penalized for the audacity of having a biological existence beyond the baseline. So potentially, I am finished adhering to your archaic and cruel regulations. If the sport of tennis is incapable of accommodating fundamental human empathy, I am prepared to incinerate the entire calendar and construct a superior system from the debris. That was the moment everything changed. The shockwave was seismic, instantly splitting the tennis community into two hostile factions before the broadcast even ended. On one side, you had the traditionalist guard who were absolutely apoplectic with rage. They branded her behavior as wildly amateurish and deeply unappreciative. The sentiment was that she was viciously attacking the very institutions that provided her wealth and global platform. They contended fervently that professional sports are a career, like any high-stakes corporate role, demanding total self-abnegation and singular focus to succeed. Accusations flew that she was strategically utilizing the infant as a shield to deflect criticism for a potential dip in form or lack of concentration. "You are delusional if you think you can balance both worlds," was the common refrain. Detractors scoffed openly, suggesting she should either dedicate herself 100% to the court or retire immediately to stop squandering the public's time. They referenced decades of sporting history, maintaining that the current meritocracy functions perfectly for those athletes possessing the will to make the required trade-offs. Conversely, the second camp, her ardent defenders lauded her as a trailblazing icon who finally summoned the bravery to confront the establishment. These supporters highlighted reams of data demonstrating exactly how the professional tour infrastructure creates a nearly insurmountable hostile environment for parents attempting to remain elite competitors. They argued that the logistics are rigged to make it functionally impossible to sustain a top-tier ranking while raising a family. They brought receipts citing the arduous journeys of legends like Victoria Azarenka and Serena Williams, who fought tooth and nail to reclaim their dominance post-pregnancy. These icons faced plummeted rankings, a lack of creche facilities, and bureaucratic hurdles that feel like they were written in the 1950s. For this group, Alex's volatile commentary was not a petulant. Instead, it is being hailed as a critical and non-negotiable ultimatum, demanding a complete structural overhaul of the tour that many insiders believe is already years behind schedule. Supporters are making a compelling case that the mental and physical health of the players must finally take precedence over profits, condemning the relentless pressure to win at any price as a dangerous and antiquated philosophy that can no longer exist in the modern game of 2026. Alex is receiving widespread acclaim across the tennis world for possessing the bravery to publicly address these sensitive issues, effectively serving as the voice for a silent majority of the locker room who were previously too intimidated to challenge the status quo. The fallout has triggered a massive firestorm of debate that has monopolized the airwaves, fueling heated discussions on 24-hour sports networks and flooding social media feeds with hot takes for weeks on end. Is Alex Eala systematically dismantling a career that once showed limitless potential, or is she single-handedly rescuing the moral compass of professional sports? The arguments surrounding this issue have become incredibly volatile, intensely personal, and at times, frankly, downright ugly. We are seeing a phenomenon where observers are projecting their own internal values and beliefs onto a situation that defies all precedent. We are looking at the math and a legacy being built in real time. So where exactly does all of this leave us at this precise moment in a story that is still developing by the hour? Alex Eala has transcended the definition of a mere tennis player, struggling to climb the rankings. She has evolved into something far more significant and complex. She is a powerful symbol and a new mother thrust into the global spotlight. She stands now as a provocateur, forcing us to have uncomfortable conversations. She is a lightning rod for fierce debates regarding work-life balance, gender equity, and the role of human compassion in elite athletics. She walked into the 2026 Australian Open as a hopeful young contender, dreaming of Grand Slam glory. Yet she walked out as arguably the most discussed woman in the entire world of sports. And this fame has not come from a spectacular backhand winner or a shocking upset victory on the court, but rather because she retrieved a discarded life from a literal trash bin and then had the audacity to challenge the entire world when it told her she was wrong for caring. We are receiving reports that baby Felix is recovering at a remarkable rate, which is a miracle considering the horrific circumstances of his first few days on Earth. He is currently surrounded by a dedicated team of private nannies, top-tier medical professionals, and close family members who have flown in directly from the Philippines to provide a crucial support network for Alex during this unprecedented time. However, the colossal question marks that hang over her professional career remain unanswered and are deeply troubling to a vast number of observers. Will she announce an extended hiatus from competitive tennis to dedicate herself entirely to Felix's critical early development? Is she preparing to wage a prolonged war against the WTA establishment to force them to implement superior childcare policies and parental support systems? Will she actually follow through on her implied threat to burn the current schedule to the ground and create an alternative tour that prioritizes human dignity over prize money? To be perfectly honest, we simply do not know what the future holds at this juncture. This narrative is being written in real time, but there is one thing we know beyond any shadow of a doubt. The chilling silence of that abandoned infant left to perish alone in a trash bin has been completely overtaken by the jested, powerful roar of a young woman who discovered her true voice, her purpose, and her courage in the most unlikely setting imaginable. This extraordinary saga forces every single one of us to look in the mirror and confront some deeply uncomfortable questions about our own values and priorities. In a world that is utterly obsessed with winning with status, with the next big sensation, and with social media clout and viral moments, are we collectively losing our grip on our fundamental humanity? Are we so hyper-focused on personal achievement that we have completely forgotten what actually matters in this life? Alexandra Eala looked into a dumpster behind a tennis facility and found her answer in the form of a helpless infant. Now, each of us must find our own answer to that pressing question. What is your take on this? Let us have a conversation. This is the story that the mainstream media is absolutely too terrified to touch with this level of honesty and depth. But we are bringing it to you completely raw, unfiltered, and uncensored because that is the foundational promise of our coverage here. I desperately want to hear from you, the audience that makes this broadcast possible. Was Alex absolutely justified in adopting the baby in the middle of a Grand Slam tournament, or should she have waited and let the system handle it through standard channels? Is her explosive statement claiming that the tennis tour hates mothers completely fair and factually accurate? Or was she simply being overly emotional during a moment of extreme vulnerability? And do you genuinely believe she can still ascend to world #1 and compete for Grand Slam titles while simultaneously raising a child she heroically saved from the streets? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments section below. I read absolutely every single comment, and I genuinely value your perspectives even when we stand on opposite sides. If you want to stay fully updated on this developing saga, and believe me when I tell you this story is far from over, you absolutely need to be subscribed to this channel. We will be tracking baby Felix's progress, as well as Alex's ongoing war against the tennis establishment and every single twist and turn in this unprecedented journey every step of the way. The mainstream media outlets will move on to the next scandal within days, but we are committed to following this through to whatever conclusion awaits. Smash that like button right now if you stand with Alex's courageous decision to choose humanity over rankings. Subscribe to our network for the unfiltered truth that you will not find anywhere else on the web. And please share this video far and wide to spread the word and keep this critical conversation alive in the public eye. Until next time, keep your eyes on the court, but more importantly, keep your heart wide open to the humanity that exists beyond the baseline. This is the update signing off. As she said, I am just one person. I am, just trying to do my best with the career that I have. I am an athlete doing her best to compete and doing her best to simply be.